Welcome back to the channel, everybody. And guys, yesterday I did a video talking about stage 24 of the Sand Devil's Necropolis. And I said that based on the response of that video would determine if I continue to do videos talking about this dungeon or not. And I wasn't sure how you guys would respond. And it seemed like, honestly, the response was overwhelmingly positive. So here we are, let's use English again, to do the Sand Devil's Necropolis stage 25 with what I believe is the most accessible team so far that I've made. Okay, the other one had a legendary champion, and it's a little bit harder to get champions. This is a common champion, 3 epics, and a legendary. Now, before we get into all the substitutions later on, I'm gonna try to go over that later. This champion, Elva, is a champion who, in my previous video, was the most requested champion to have a substitution for. And I'm gonna be honest, the best substitution for Elva is probably going to be Siphi. And if you don't have Elva, I realize you probably don't have Siphi either. So we're going to go ahead and jump into this match. I want to run you guys through the startup, the setup, and kind of give you an idea of how the match actually works. We'll fast forward through it. Sometimes it takes a long time. Sometimes it's really quick. But then we'll go over all the gear, the champion presets, and everything you guys need to know to make this successful. So first things first, Skytouched Shaman. If you use her, any Revival and Death champion should be perfectly fine. Skytouch is going to be probably the best because she brings a very good heal from her passive ability, plus a cleanse, block debuffs, and Revival and Death. She's a very, very, very good champion for this dungeon. And to start off, she's an immunity set. You can see it right there. She also is much faster than the Sand Devil himself because you have to make sure that she gets this Revival and Death placed before he ever takes a turn. So whether you're doing stage 25, stage 21, stage 18, whatever stage you're doing, make sure your Revival and Death goes before the boss ever gets a turn. Next up, we have Elva. She's just set to open with her A1 ability. And then nobody else should get a turn. Actually, Geomancer gets a turn, and then no one else does. Everybody revives on death, and then boom. Skytouched fully heals everybody. You'll see Elva places her increased speed plus her block debuffs, which is very, very important. So you'll notice this may actually ruin me, okay? This is the very rare situation where this run may fail. And that is when Geomancer does not reduce the turn meter of the boss, places his debuffs, and his max HP is not reduced. So if this happens, this is like the only situation where it's actually going to fail. And currently, it may be bugged, but basically what's going to happen is the boss will probably do this A2 ability. Now, our res champions may be perfectly fine, but ideally, Geo would reduce the turn meter, go to 0 max HP. He'll have that big red bar, as you guys have seen before, and then the boss will only use the A1 ability from the rest of the match. And then it's pretty easy. But here, it may be a little different. So let's see. She's going to use her A2 ability to extend the duration of all those buffs, which is very, very helpful. And then our Hellhound over there, our common champion, is just going to do common champion things. But here we go. Uses the A2 ability. Not actually a huge deal. Our Hellhound, he's a common champion, so he's taking a nap over there. But honestly, this should be perfectly fine. I think we can recover from this because that ability is on a 3-turn cooldown. We have Revival and Death, kind of going back to the beginning. We have 2-turn duration on that A3 ability from the boss, which Hellhound, every time he attacks, every time he puts the boss to sleep, that duration increases. So now it's 3-turn, it'll go down to 2-turn, but then pay attention that once Hellhound comes back around, it'll be back to a 3-turn cooldown. So check this out. Wait for him to actually get back around, boom, no sleep yet, got resisted. So this run's a little bit bad on RNG, which I'm actually glad to show you guys because I think even with this bad RNG, this run can be very consistent. This is honestly quite possibly the worst RNG that I've ever seen, and I couldn't be more happy to actually see this because this run should be perfectly fine. I hope, because that's going to be kind of weird if it's not while doing this video. But let me go ahead and hide my webcam. We'll fast forward the same fight, and then we'll go over everything once I'm actually out of it. We'll try to do another one at the end of the video to show you a run with actual good RNG, because like I said, this is the absolute worst RNG I've seen yet. So enjoy the run of bad, bad, bad RNG. All right, guys, so 8 minutes and 33 seconds later, and that was literally the worst RNG that I've ever seen this run do. I've actually never seen Geomancer not fully deplete the turn meter on the very first turn. So in case you're curious, this is what I was talking about. This is what should have happened. Revival and Death, Elva does her thing, Geomancer does his thing, boom, everybody dies, Skytouched, Elva, Geo fully reduces, and then 0 HP, and the boss only uses the A1 ability from here on out. So that's what should have happened. That's absolutely not at all what actually happened. That's really good. I'm glad to have seen that. If you guys enjoy this video, hit a like, subscribe to the channel. We're going to go over and talk about the gear of each one of these champions, the masteries, everything you guys need to know, and then hopefully talk about some suggestions, some substitutions, some suggestions on substitutions. Dang, we're trying to pull words out of thin air here. So first things first is Elva Autumnborn. So this champion is possibly substituted with Siphi. Currently, I have her running at 271 speed, so she's pretty fast. But other than that, nothing super specific. So good HP, good defense. Give her HP percentage, defense percentage on whatever gear you can. Make her fast. I got her in Immortal gear. It's by no means needed. But I figure, hey, if I'm going to use her in Hydra, I might as well have some pretty good stuff. She has an attack percentage chestplate. This is not good whatsoever. So make her survive. Make her pretty quick. Then you should be perfectly fine. Ideally faster than the boss, which is actually pretty easy to get. The boss on stage 25, I think, is like 271. So you have a 19% speed aura from Elva. So you don't have to be that quick. You guys can do the math. I think it's like 255 for her. Basically, it's 19% speed aura is added onto her base speed, or calculated from her base speed. So 110, let's see, 110 times 0.19. Her base speed gives her basically 21 extra speed. So take from that what you will. But as far as her skills go, her A2 is the only thing you really need to be fully booked. Her A3 doesn't really need to be fully booked. Mine only has one book into it. Her A1 doesn't really matter, to be honest. And then her masteries. Make sure you do not have War Master on any of these champions. No champion has War Master. My Geomancer no longer even has War Master. So as far as their actual mastery setup goes, this is what she has. This is what I've been liking. This seems to perform very well. And here we go. I don't think this is the only one that works. Honestly, this team seems pretty flexible, like very flexible. Speaking of being flexible, we have Godseeker Aniri. This is one of the champions who I found out that it is so flexible because I was running her earlier at 270 speed. It worked fine. I ran her at 222 speed. It worked fine. I'm running her now at 243 speed, and it's working fine. Basically, my goal with her is to have her reviving Geomancer and having Geomancer's speed at an appropriate enough spot so when she reses him from her A3 ability, he's going to be able to actually do that A3. However, once the fight gets a little ways into it, it's kind of hard to time it up, and I don't know the exact speed tunes to make it consistent throughout the entire thing. But as far as her speed goes, 220 plus, I know for sure works. 225, 230 plus, I know for sure works. I think before she had 222, and then all the way up to like 270. So try with whatever you can, but just know you can have her pretty slow and it'd be perfectly fine. But outside of speed, we have her good HP, we have her good defense. Nothing else really matters, okay? So good speed, good defense, good HP. These are the pieces I have on her. Level 12 Daze piece. I tried some Daze gear. Do not put Daze gear on anybody, honestly. Especially champions who go before the boss. Well, more specifically, champions who go before the boss. At this point, she may be able to be put into some Daze gear because before, I had her going faster than the boss and it failed because she landed asleep and it ruined the entire run. But at this point, I bet I could actually switch her over to Daze gear. As long as she's under that 271 speed after the aura, she's going to probably be fine. So if you guys want that extra safety net, go ahead and do that, but you don't really need it. Get some refresh gear on her, refresh accessories if you have it. It's going to definitely help out. As far as her skills, make sure that A2 and A3 ability are fully booked. The A2 extends that block debuffs as well as that increased speed. As far as her masteries, this is what I have. You'll notice that I don't have this ability, which boosts turn meter, or timely intervention, which also boosts turn meter. I don't really need this extra HP. I kind of just left this open. Maybe I add this down the road, but currently I don't really need any of that. So Godseeker Aniri, there she is. Next champion, Skytouched Shaman. So Skytouched Shaman, you can replace her with any other Revival and Death champion, technically. However, the heals will be very, very important because she brings a lot of healing from her passive. So keep that in mind. You do need healing from other champions on the team. So if you switch her out for a Mother Cybele, a Cardiel, he probably brings good healing, though he does bring extra hits from his passive ability. So you got to be careful. But the main thing she's doing is that Revival and Death. So she's placing this very beginning of the match. You need immunity gear, because if you don't, she can place this fear on herself at the very beginning, which will ruin your run if it actually activates. So make sure immunity gear, make sure she's faster than the boss. So as long as she's 260 plus, she should be fine, because you got that 19% speed aura from Elva. Though if you're running Siphi, you need to make sure Skytouched is, say, 272 plus. Honestly, 281, perfectly fine. The boss really should never get an extra turn, but if he does, like you've seen in that really bad RNG, having Skytouched going really fast is just going to be better. Outside the speed, if I click this one more time, I'm going to go crazy, guys. I'm sure you're going to go crazy. We have 52,000 HP, decent defense, 3,000, resistance and accuracy not needed whatsoever. So as far as her gear goes, we have a defense percentage gloves, accuracy chest plate just because it has good speed. So not really great stuff right there, honestly. As far as the top row, the bottom row, the accessories, we have HP on the ring, HP on the necklace, and then a level 12 defense banner. So obviously there's plenty of room to grow. As far as her masteries go, she does have those turn meter boosting masteries, because the more turn meter she gets, it's going to be healing more, and it's going to be placing the revival on death more often, which is both a win-win ability. So having a lot of turn meter, having a lot of speed, having a lot of extra turns isn't really an issue whatsoever for Skytouched. The next two champions are going to be the more difficult ones to gear. So we have Geomancer, which before I had him in War Master, I switched him over to Eagle Eye, and now I have an extra chunk of accuracy right there, which is awesome. So definitely, if you struggle with accuracy, just make that switch. Now, as far as Geomancer goes, I by no means think that 266 accuracy is required. I ran Geo at about 245, worked perfectly fine. So you can probably run him fairly slow. However, watch your runs, because if he's placing the HP burn very frequently when the boss is not asleep, then you may need to increase his speed or slow him down some. Because ideally, Hellhound will place asleep, the boss will almost take another turn, and then Geomancer will come in with his burn, reduce the turn meter, and you're going to be good to go. So with Geomancer, you really just need very specific speed. You need accuracy that's appropriate for the boss level you're doing. So for stage 25, I think it was like 525 accuracy or 505. I forget which one, but let's say 525. We're over that. We're doing pretty good. So make sure very fast, very accurate. Other than that, he needs no HP. He needs no defense, because after the first turn, he's going to ideally have 1% max HP even available. So really, you want him to die right off the bat, no problem whatsoever. And then you want him to just sit at 1% HP. Not a problem. So no HP needed. A3, definitely need that booked. A2, you're not even going to use it. And the A1 ability, you don't really need it booked. So the A3, very, very important. Make sure you fully book that. But to be honest, if you have Geomancer and you haven't booked the A3, man, I don't know what to tell you. You definitely do not understand how good Geo is literally everywhere in the game. Like, that dwarf is beyond overpowered. Honestly, I think he should be a legendary, but I'm not complaining about him being an epic, because it gives more people a chance to actually get him. Now, as far as his masteries, we do have some turn meter boosting masteries. However, they don't really matter, because he never really gets time to see people get hit, because he has 1% HP all the time. One other thing as far as his artifacts go, if you have refresh accessories, throw them on him. I can't yet, because I don't have enough accuracy, though I may change some stuff to see if I can get enough accuracy. But right now, don't quite have enough. I definitely would love to have some of these refresh accessories on him for higher chances of getting that A3 ability off whenever the boss is asleep. The next champion is the champion who ties it all together, and that is Hellhound. Hellhound is the most difficult champion to gear for, simply because he needs, one, good accuracy. So whatever accuracy you need for the stage you're doing, he needs 100% crit rate or the equivalent. In our situation, we're doing stage 25. He has strong affinity, which means he's going to have 15% basically built-in crit rate, meaning he only needs 85% crit rate. However, I built him with 112%. So I basically overcapped him with crit rate, which is absolutely no reason whatsoever, but it just so happens that my crit rate gloves in the perception set were actually really good. So we have crit rate gloves there. We don't really have a ton of crit rate anywhere else, but somehow, when I'm not really looking for it, I still way overcap my crit rate for whatever reason. I don't really understand it, but with Hellhound, he doesn't really need a ton of HP. Ideally, over 20,000. Get some HP stuff on him if you can. I do have an HP ring on him, which seems to do perfectly fine. HP ring with HP percentage. But it seems that if you have okay defense, or at least with the defense that I have, the boss seemed to be hitting for about 15,000 damage. So as long as you're over 15,000 HP, which isn't that difficult to get, considering he's at 10,000 base HP. Honestly, the more HP, the better, but just make sure your Hellhound is actually surviving. If he's dying, no sleep going out, it's just a bad day for everybody. As far as the accuracy, he needs 525, I believe, for stage 25, and you're good. So as far as the bare minimum stats, I've actually ran him at 188 speed, but you guys just need to judge your run with your other speeds of your other champions and determine it. I have 208 speed right now. It's doing perfectly fine. Honestly, at 188, it was pretty good also. He didn't get as many heals from Elva's passive ability because Elva allows him to heal every time he takes a turn. You can see from her passive, heals each ally by 10% of their max HP at the start of their turn. So the more turns he gets, the more heals he gets. 188 speed seemed kind of low, but honestly, I've ran him as low as 188 and as high as like 227. So you can try either one of those speeds and it should work perfectly fine. I have 208, not very good HP, not very good defense, but the best I can get for what I have right now. And then accuracy 525 plus, and you're going to be good to go. Make sure the crit rate is at least 85%, and your Hellhound's going to perform exactly like you want him to. Also, something to keep in mind, you do have this A2, or sorry, not the A2, the Mastery, the Charge Focus, which increases accuracy by 20 when this champion has no skills on cooldown. And since he's a common champion, he has no skills to even be on cooldown, so he's always going to have a built-in 20 extra accuracy, which is actually pretty nice. Also, the downside is that he's a common champion, so you can't ascend him. So no banner, no necklace. So he's a little difficult to gear for, but if you can get past that, he's actually a really good champion. Also has the A3, not A3 ability. He has this Mastery, which increases accuracy by 4 for each enemy alive, so an extra 4 accuracy just for the boss being alive. Same thing with Geomancer, picking that up. Since we have his A2 ability turned off in the actual battle, he's never going to have an ability on cooldown whenever he's actually using that A3. So technically you can probably get away with 20 less accuracy, but for me, I'd rather overshoot the accuracy as it is, because why not, right? If you can, overshoot it. If you really need to hit that bare minimum, then just know, hey, you can work with 20 less accuracy. You should be fine. Now, as far as the presets go, I'm going to show you guys the presets, and I'm going to run it one more time to make sure it's looking pretty good. So the presets, we have Elva, open, number 1, not using her res. If you want it to be safer, if you want it to be more secure, turn this to just use it whenever. Personally, I don't think her res is ever needed, so I have it off. Like I said, if you want it to be that next level safety, you can go ahead and turn that on, because if your entire team gets wiped, that will be beneficial, right? So Godseeker, opening with that A2. Now, if she's faster than the boss, which is perfectly fine, open with this A1 ability, and then she'll use this A2 next. So open with the A1 if she's faster. If she's not faster, open with the A2. That is to extend Elva's A2 ability. So make sure Godseeker is slower than Elva. Hellhound, we'll just prioritize this. Can't prioritize anything. Skytouched, prioritizing that A2 ability. And then Geomancer, because his AI is not very smart at all. We have him opening with the A1 because he is faster than the boss after the aura. And then we have him prioritizing the A3 ability and then turning off the A2. So let's go ahead and jump in here again. And let me talk about a few more things, okay? So Elva, she's bringing heals, increased speed, which the increased speed is very, very important. Okay, so you don't actually want your Geomancer going extremely fast. Because if for some reason Geomancer is going like, or if he's going actually too slow, then the boss will get a turn. So right now Geomancer is at 266. You gotta be very careful about the speeds, because if the boss gets a turn and his turn meter is at like 20%, when Geomancer goes to reduce the turn meter, the boss is gonna have only 20% turn meter. So Geomancer is only gonna lose 20% of his HP. So you have to make sure that Geomancer is ran alongside, ideally, somebody with increased speed so that he can use that A3 ability before the boss ever actually takes a turn. Like I said, you really want that max HP reduced. You want to make sure you get that full chunk of Geomancer taken away as soon as possible, because if the boss sees Geomancer at 1 HP, he thinks he can kill him with the A1, so I guess he just tries to do that every single time. However, if the boss sees Geomancer at 5% HP, I guess he thinks he can't kill him, so then he doesn't do the A1, he does the A2. And while the A2 isn't going to necessarily ruin the team, it definitely adds a little bit of an extra risk to the run. So there you go, guys. A full auto, stage 25, Sand Devils Necropolis team using the common champion, Hellhound. So guys, go open your mystery shards, get yourself a Hellhound. Hopefully you already have these other champions who are a little less free to play. Actually, let me do one thing. If you've been here this long, let me go ahead and throw Siphi in here. I think she's going to work perfectly fine. I think she will. So guys, I said Siphi could be a potential swap for Elva in this team. Now, if you use Siphi, it's going to be a little different because you have to make sure Siphi is faster than the boss, and ideally use the A1 first. So that's going to sleep the boss. However, if she sleeps the boss, you need to make sure that Geomancer is also going faster than the boss. So I changed Geomancer's speed to 275. I changed Siphi. She's 287, opening with the A1 ability, then prioritizing the A2. We have Skytouched Shaman opening with her A1, which is a little bit different, and then prioritizing, or opening with her default ability and then prioritizing that A2. So if you're going to use Siphi, you're going to have to keep that in mind. If you sleep the boss and the boss wakes up, it's going to mess everything up. If you try to use Siphi with Geomancer slower than the boss, it's also going to mess things up. I do think Siphi is going to be just perfectly fine in this fight. I don't see it being an issue whatsoever, though it could be tricky if the boss gets a turn here. So I guess we're going to see, there we go, A2, perfect. Everybody dies, and everybody should be perfectly fine from here on out, honestly. We do have Skytouched Shaman with a decreased speed. Hopefully she can cleanse that. If not, shouldn't be a huge deal. We do have Siphi plus Godseeker for 2 different res champions. We have a little bit of healing going on to Skytouched. So Skytouch is going to need to be pretty tanky for this to actually work. But so far, this is looking okay. So Siphi should be doing just as much healing as Elva did, as far as the healing whenever a champion takes a turn. We're at 47 seconds and the boss is already half HP. That's actually pretty impressive, honestly. We have the res on Skytouch. Siphi's doing the res for Geomancer. Skytouch should recover from this without too much of an issue, honestly. We do need to speed tune technically Godseeker with Siphi a little bit better, but this was just for a little test, okay? So if you do have Siphi, you don't have Elva, you need to make Siphi faster than the boss. You'll probably need to get Geomancer also faster than the boss, so faster than that 271 speed. You have no speed aura, unless you use Mother Cybele, which would be a little bit different. At that point, you're building a pretty different team, to be honest, but it definitely could work, okay? So we are getting more debuffs landed versus with Elva, which is interesting. The speed tune's not perfect, but we're actually working it down fairly fast. So guys, I'm going to go ahead and let this team play out. I'm going to speed it up for you all, but I'll let you all watch it. It should be perfectly fine. So if you don't have Elva, Siphi's your option. Long enough video, guys. Sand Devils Necropolis, 40 minutes later. Hope you all enjoyed, and I'll catch you next video.